We're going to talk a little bit about the giant Salvinia in the Ross Barnett Reservoir, and not only there, but it's affecting other places in the state. But first, flooding in the Delta, and we'll go with you, Chris and Adam. It's just the beginning is what they're telling us.
Yeah, it hadn't changed a whole lot since like February, and that's unfortunate for all those residents that are in that world. And a few weeks ago we came out with an order talking about boating traffic in those areas, in those oxbow lakes, and so the intent of that was to protect those homes that were right there on the verge of getting wet, and the water's done nothing to continually rise since then. So just be mindful of that whenever people are out checking on their property. They can still do all that stuff, but do it at a dead slow, no wake, idle speed when you're bumping around those lakes. And then we still have some closures over there. I mean, those areas weren't turkey huntable anyway.
Right. Yeah. Our WMAs over in that part of the world are closed. So Sunflower and Twin Oaks says, but those actually didn't open until April 1st anyway. Mm-hmm. But who knows what everything's going to do? But the forecast I'm hearing is that the water's not going away anytime soon. So we don't really have a date in mind, but I'm going to be really surprised if those areas get opened at all this year. Yeah,
it may go down a few feet in the backwater. You hear talk about them opening the steel bayou gates around April 1st. Maybe leaving them open for 10 days or so, and that's not going to really do a whole lot.
Yeah, I do want to brag on our guys, our WMA staff over there. Really worked hard getting all the stuff out of Mahana and Twin Oaks, some of those other areas that are under a pretty good bit of water now. I've seen some of the pictures. It's a lot of water, but they did a lot of work getting those areas ready to sustain the flood.
Didn't I say where this was something similar to 73?
It's the highest flood since 73. Yeah.
Got pretty high back then, JT, didn't it?
And the bad part about it is, guys, is they're saying now that this is just the beginning. That all that stuff in Nebraska and everything up there, and the snow melt, the snowpack, and everything's going to come down here, that we could see record flooding like we've never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Wow. And I guess that a lot of what we've dealt with to this part's just been really rain here, rain in Mississippi.
Right.
The river stuff's yet to come. JT, we have been getting a lot of questions about, are you going to close turkey season or not? We mentioned those WMAs are not open right now that are over there, and I know some of the federal public land, same situation, Panther Swamp and that sort of thing. As of today, we are not planning on closing any private land to turkey hunting. Our listeners probably remember back during deer season when river got up, we had closures of private land along the river itself. That went into effect because of a rule that lays it out specifically. So it wasn't a judgment call. It wasn't like somebody sitting around the office saying, hey, are we going to close it? We're not going to close it. There's a law on the books that says when the gauge gets to this foot level, hunting season's closed, and that law expires at the end of January. The time for that law expires in January. So it's not, this time of the year is not covered under that. And as of right now, we really have no intent on closing private land. So we have been getting that question a lot over the last couple of weeks.
All right, Larry Pugh, you've been playing with flamethrowers, hadn't you?
Well, I haven't. Certainly the PRV staff and some of our Fisheries Bureau staff have been hard at it with the flamethrower at Pelahatchie Bay.
They finally got the reservoir down a little bit, huh? Where they could go to work on it.
And this was all part of the plan, JT. I mean, they haven't basically brought the water up. They've kept it down through the winter. And there's a lot of what's called juncus or bulrush that's out there. And what we found is the giant Salvinia was growing underneath it. And the forester that works with the PRV came up with the idea of burning this stuff off. Mm-hmm. So once you're able to burn the bulrush off, you're able to effectively spray some herbicide directly on the giant Salvinia to get rid of it. Thus, the purchase or the use of the flamethrower.
So you get rid of the grass on top.
Right,
to get to the bad stuff.
And if you think of bulrush or cut grass, think about Johnson grass, something growing really high.
That stuff was just crazy thick.
Yeah, so you can actually get to that floating plant that's on that moist soil that will survive on the mud. So go in there and burn it. You can effectively treat those areas. We've got booms in those areas to keep the plant from spreading. So a lot going on.
Did you see the video, JT?
I saw some of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
So let me ask you this question, Larry. I mean, we know this is a very serious threat to the reservoir, but I've heard you say, and some more people say, y'all feel pretty confident y'all are going to be able to handle this one.
I hope so, JT. This is a one-shot deal. And people keep asking, when is the water going to come back up? When is Pelahatchie Bay going to open back up? We believe, and I say we, that's PRV, that's us, MDWFP. We believe this is our one shot to get rid of this plant, and we're going to do everything we can to get rid of it. I mean, if it means keeping those booms out, if it means keeping the causeway closed off, but maybe there would be access allowed just in Pelahatchie Bay. I know there's been some discussion on that. There's going to be a cleaning station that should be coming in this week that'll probably be set up in the event that boats are allowed to launch in Pelahatchie Bay, where you would clean your boat once you take it out. So
to get this, you have to get pretty close to the stuff, right? It would have to get close to your boat and your prop and everything. It'd have to get pretty close to it. So if you're in other areas of the reservoir, it's not like it's over there where you would be where you'd be bothered with it.
Right. And a lot of people have misidentified it. They think we see a lot of water hyacinth on the reservoir in other places, and that's not the plant we're dealing with. This is a unique plant, and we're going to be putting signage up to make boaters aware, not only at Barnett but throughout the state. It's called Clean, Drain, Dry. And we'll have some pictures up you can look at, and places you need to check. Drain your bilge, pull your plug, check your boat trailer. That's a place that a lot of the plants get, not just Salvinia, but that's how they get introduced in other places. Check your prop, your lower unit, your trolling motor up at the front if you've got a trolling motor. So we're just trying to educate folks as we continue to fight this problematic plant.
Did I hear correctly that it's about 90% contained? Is that right?
We feel like that's a pretty good estimate. I met with staff this morning to get an update prior to coming here. We feel like that's a good number. So we feel like we're winning the battle. Lord knows we've got enough time out there and man hours at PRV or at Pelahatchie Bay with PRV. We feel like we're winning, but we don't want to give up now. And lose what ground we've made over the last several months. So folks will be patient a little while longer. We feel like we're going to be able to do some good stuff in the next month or so. Why is
this such a serious? I mean, why is this? I mean, here we go. This is serious, y'all.
Well, I mean, it's a floating plant. It causes problems with boating access, being able to get your boat on the water. It causes problems from a water quality standpoint because it reduces sunlight penetration. We've seen places in Texas and Louisiana where this plant's came in and expanded and taken over a 5,000-acre arm of a reservoir.
Wow.
That's why we did what we did at Pelahatchie Bay. And if you Google it, I tell folks, if you don't believe us, just go to Google and type in giant Salvinia pictures, and you will see places where this plant has gotten so bad. Then your only option at that point is herbicide applications, and that can obviously get costly when you're talking about the acres that you have to treat once it gets that big.
Yeah, and of course it's also like this. It's not like you can drain the reservoir.
No.
Right.
No.
I mean, it's not you're never going to do that.
Mm-mm.
So this could be something that would be. I guess it's inconvenient now.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
But if we don't get it now, it's going to be really inconvenient later.
That's what the message that we've been saying. Put up with it for just a little while. Let us get rid of it. And we'll be better off in the long run.
Can you get rid of it?
We certainly hope so. We're trying. I can promise you that. That's why we've taken the measures we've taken.
Turkey season update. Here we go. How many of this newfangled turkey harvesting reporting system y'all got? How many turkey have we killed so far?
Well, JT, as of this morning before coming over here, we have had a little over 4,700 reported. Which,
wow,
yeah, says first year of it, and so far, we've seen great Great feedback from the public. We've had some minor issues, as you would expect. Any new system like this, you're going to have a few growing pains, but I mean they've been really small and not had any kind of the system's not crashed. It's not nothing major. So I think it's going well. I think hunters are accepting of it. We're getting good feedback on it. And like I said, 4,700 so far.
It's a record year.
We're setting the record.
That's right. We clarified that.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good. I think it's been well received, and you can watch folks talk about it on social media and say it's been a pretty easy deal. It hadn't been too much of an inconvenience, which was projected to be
right.
spying on you and all that fun conspiracy theories that come out when any new change comes
right.
about. But
got an interesting question here. It says, I wounded a bird on Sunday. Found it 5 days later. He didn't make it. Do I still need to report that kill?
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think that brings us back to the next thing. Why are we doing turkey harvest reporting?
Well, JT, because previously we've not had a great way to track harvest, which is sort of a fundamental thing with wildlife management. You need to know how many you're taking from the resource to be able to manage it sustainably. So in the past, the way we've came up with our harvest estimate has been sort of an after the fact statistical guess, and it's valid. It's probably a valid index of what's going on out there, but it has a lot of downsides. We know it's not the real number, and we also know that it is not useful at talking directly about the county level or the local level where things really matter. So that's why we have harvest reporting, so that we can get a more accurate assessment of what is being taken, what is out there, and have that where it is applicable to at least the county scale, at least sort of a local level. And it's like I've said before, JT, I mean, this year we're going to get some really neat information back, and if hunters are interested, they can actually see the live. That number is updated live. It's on the Game Check page. If you go to Game Check and report your harvest button there, you can see the map and all of that as it's real time. And so we'll get some neat stuff back. But the thing people really got to keep in mind is that the big picture here is way more long term than just 2019. It's building a set of information that will guide turkey management, long after any of us here are gone. We're looking generations into the future. People will be able to use this information to see where we've come from, and that's going to help make management decisions and stuff going down the road. So far, so good with it.
And that's why you need to report that kill, even though
right.
you did it and wounded it, and 5 days later you found it. Yes, you still need to do it.
Kill the turkey.
Yeah, and they need to know about that. That's exactly it. Chris says, is it legal to shoot Asian carp with a shotgun from a boat in a river or a lake?
It is not. That's a no. Negative.
Okay.
Probably not that safe.
It's not safe. It's not a legal method of harvesting fish. It's not. That's a few. It checks a few not legal boxes.
Shooting from a moving boat.
Yeah, it's just.
Here's a good question. Do we know what counties reported the most kills so far?
Last I checked, and I don't know that I looked at it this morning, so this is kind of going off of a couple of days.
It's kind of done the 55.
Yeah,
I saw Lafayette County was leading at one time.
Yeah, you got Lafayette and Marshall are up there pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
Capai's up there pretty high.
Atala's
up there pretty high. Those are, which actually makes me feel fairly comfortable with the data we're getting back, because if you had asked me, couple of months ago what are some of our better turkey counties, most all of those counties would have been on my short list. So it makes me feel like maybe this information's somewhat accurate.
Richard from Wiggins on the C Spire text line said, we need that for deer.
Correct.
Well,
so Richard,
nobody's thought about that.
Yeah, just to point out, the legal implications of all of this, I guess if you want to get into it, the Commission on Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks had the authority to do this for turkeys. The authority to do it for deer still rests in the legislature. So the Commission kind of used the authority the legislature had given them, and that's why we have it for turkey now.
We couldn't get a harvest reporting bill out of the legislature the last 3 years, so I don't know. The Commission did this, and so he can contact his local representative or senator.
So turkey season, I mean, we had some beautiful weather for it this weekend. They know what's going on. But so what's going on right now? Why the season set right now? What's the deal?
So with turkey hunting, Chris and I were talking about this on the way over here. A lot of times, maybe we we take for granted what we're talking about, but the turkey season is actually set to time with the breeding season of the wild turkey. So they're out there.
Love is in the air.
Yep,
springtime.
old Cupid.
Yeah, just like all the the birds and the bees, and they're out doing their thing. So with turkeys, they're what us nerdy biologists would call a polygynous species. So they're one male.
We said we were going to talk down. We're going to talk like on a 10-year-old level, and he starts calling.
What I mean is, one male has a lot of girlfriends. Okay,
I got you.
And so in nature, what normally happens is that one male gobbles to try to call in the girlfriends, try to assemble his flock, his harem. And so what you do as a turkey hunter is try to reverse that. You are trying to make a call that sounds, generally you're trying to make a call that sounds like the female turkey to lure the male turkey in. And so so you go out there, right? You get out of the truck. You're standing there listening, and you hear old Tom. I don't know where he got the name Tom, but I don't either.
Tom is his name, and he gobbles. Ow! He hits it. And you're like, oh, there he is. Let's go get him. And you start walking, and he's still gobbling. And you sit down.
And you call.
And you try to be as quiet as you can, and he's still gobbling. And that's good, because that means he doesn't know you're in the world. So you sit down and you pull out your call, and you call real light. You're trying to just pretend the whole time that you're a female turkey.
That's right.
You're calling light, soft.
Henrietta.
Yeah. And that little call where he cuts you off, then you're like, okay, he knows I'm here. Because you want him to know you're there, because, if he was going on yesterday afternoon, you came in late because you weren't there when he flew up yesterday afternoon, because you are a human. And so he answers you, and you think, I'm in the game. I got a chance. And then he flies down, and you're like, oh, he's on the ground now. Now we can have some business.
A conversation.
If he's in the tree.
You're going to have a conversation.
He's in the tree. Yeah, you can shoot him out of the tree, but it's frowned upon.
It's not illegal, but that's not it's the challenge.
How about unethical?
Can be if you shoot him early, though.
Right. As long as it's during legal shooting hours, it's technically not.
Don't do that.
Illegal, but it is highly frowned upon.
You'll be kicked out of the turkey hunting club.
Right.
Well, but listen, am I right about this? The whole part of this is, the way I understand it, is not necessarily the kill to just go shoot a turkey that's in a roost. But the whole fun of this thing is to call the turkey into you.
Right, that's right. And like I said, so going back to it, the gobbler there is he's trying to call up his girlfriends, and you're trying to do the exact opposite. You're trying to force him to do something that's a little bit unnatural to him most of the time. So that's where it gets challenging, because they don't really want to come. They're prideful, okay? They're strutting, they're big, they're pretty, they're puffed up, and they're really proud of themselves. And so they don't want to have to come to you. They want you to come to them. So it kind of becomes a little bit of a chess game, back and forth.
How much
Cat
time
and mouse.
We got about a minute.
So for these turkey hunters that have been rocking and rolling out there, and they hear them gobbling like 50, 60, 70 times in the tree, and they're just, it's a done deal. You're starting to taste the turkey because you know it's over. And he flies down or hits the ground, and you never hear from him again.
Right.
What's that all about?
Right. So we're like I said, we're in the breeding season, and the breeding season of the bird starts in March, but it really goes all the way through May and June. We're still early in it, so the flocks are still flocked up, and so the gobblers are still getting with his big group of girlfriends, and he doesn't want to have to leave those.
So good days are coming?
Better days are coming. What normally happens is when the hens begin to nest, when they actually start laying their nest, which is probably still a couple of weeks away, they start having fewer girlfriends, and so they tend to get a little more frantic and do a little more gobbling.
We've been talking about turkeys, and we're talking about the breeding season right now and the turkey behavior as it changes as the season progresses, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. So we were kind of getting around that a little bit before we left. That this early part of our season in Mississippi is very early in the breeding season of turkeys, and so the gobblers are oftentimes, hunters will say, henned up, which means that they have a lot of girlfriends right now, so it makes it difficult. A lot of times the turkeys will gobble while they're still in the tree, and then they fly down and kind of get in these big flocks, and then they don't really feel inclined to gobble much the rest of the day. And
so that's why they don't say a word on the...
That's right. And from what I'm hearing from a lot of hunters, the people I talk to, that's kind of been the story of the last week and a half. They're hearing some birds right at daylight, and then later in the morning,
So
not much.
Do they like round each other up the day before, right before they fly up in the afternoons?
Well, a lot of times this early in the season, they won't the gobblers and the hens won't roost right together.
Right
they'll
next to each other.
separate a little bit, kind of in the evens. Later in the season, a lot of times you'll see the gobblers roosted right with the hens, but usually
Right.
early on they're kind of going to be a little
So
bit
you
separate.
do
but
have a chance if you're stealthy enough that you can get in between.
That's right. Yeah, that's your best shot to get in between the boys and the girls. But as we progress, that will change. So here, we were kind of off air talking about when's the peak of gobbling.
Yeah.
And that's coming up, and it varies across the state. We have a lot of different ways we sort of track gobbling activity. Our spring gobbler hunting survey that we can talk about here in a little bit shows that in the southern part of the state, that peak time is going to be really the last few days in March is when you're going to hear the most gobbling.
Yep.
Right around April the 1st, a few days either
Right.
side. If you go to
sound like a
North
biologist.
Mississippi, you go up north, it's a little bit later, maybe up to 10 days to 2 weeks
Yeah.
later. So you're looking right around tax day, right around probably second week of April or something like that.
So what about like the dogwood trees and all that stuff? Has that got any scientific base?
I've always heard
Or is
that.
it more accurate than science?
I don't know.
It's one of those old wives'
the
tales.
old saying that when the dogwoods are blooming, the turkeys are gobbling.
And the crop ear biting.
Right.
Well, the dogwoods are blooming right now.
The
around
crop ear
Jackson.
biting.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time to be out in the
We
spring
need to do a
woods.
crappie episode. It's time for talking crappie, huh?
The crop ear biting, it's hard to pin him down. So, all right. So if the gobblers are so hard to kill right now, how come some of these people, these lucky people, don't have any trouble?
Well,
Well, what are they shooting then? Are they shooting
Sure.
the boss turkey? Are they shooting?
No, what often happens early in the season like this is that, with turkeys, there is going to be a boss. There's kind of a hierarchy. So you're going to have
That would be
a
JT.
couple that have
and our
all the
flock.
girlfriends, and then you have the other guys that are sort of hanging around. And that's what you usually
So they
see
may
early
get in
the
a
year.
certain area. They may get run off, for lack of a better term. The boss kind of runs them away from all, and so he's looking kind of like a satellite bird running around, and he hears some calling, and he like, I got an opportunity to.
And he runs right in.
And he runs right in, and you think turkey hunting's not that hard.
That's probably a young, stupid bird.
Well, 2-year-olds are what we dream of.
An adolescent.
There you go.
Yeah.
Were you ever young and stupid, Larry?
Let's not go there. So is there a size limit on turkeys?
There actually is. So in Mississippi, the gobbler, we basically have a law that protects young of the year turkeys, and we're one of, I guess us in Arkansas are really the only states that do that
Really?
to any degree. We did it first, and Arkansas sort of followed. So for youth hunters, so hunters who are under the age of 16, they can take any gobbler they want. For hunters that are over the age of 16, so licensed hunters, basically, it has to be a gobbler with at least a 6-inch beard, or that you can otherwise identify as an adult. So typically, an adult turkey is going to have at least a 6-inch beard, but occasionally things can happen that maybe you wouldn't. So if you see a tail fan that's completely rounded, so it doesn't have any feathers that are longer than the others, they're all the same length, that's a sign that turkey's an adult. If he struts and shows
So the
you that.
short fan is a Jake.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Jake's going to have the
Is that like a 1-year-old bird?
right.
Mm.
That's right.
Or less?
Yeah,
Like a
so he'll
spiked
have
buck.
the feathers in the middle of the tail will be sticking out a little bit farther.
Easy to see.
Yeah,
Do they come
very
to the
obvious.
call too?
They a little bit. They get kind of scared. They
Super
do a little-
Jakes.
Yeah, they do. A
You
little
could,
bit.
yeah. I mean, you could. You got some that run off the. There's all kind of stuff, man.
Yeah.
Those old Jakes.
So let me ask you this question: as far as to tell the difference between a Jake and a gobbler. I mean, obviously you got to be really still, and unless you're in a blind or something, it's going to be really hard to put up some binoculars or things like that. So you probably have to get turkey in pretty close to you, don't
Right.
you?
Yeah. You generally have to see that beard. So once you do that, you've identified that is an adult. But sometimes you got to wait till they strut or show their fan or whatever, and it will occasionally cost you opportunities to take a shot because you haven't identified whether the turkey is a legal turkey or not.
You can't completely rely on the gobble, the
That's right.
sound of the gobble, the full
Right.
gobble that a gobbler would
A lot.
possess.
So what he's getting at, JT, a lot of times the jakes, the year-old gobblers, it's almost like their voice is
crack.
changing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of yeah.
What was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's obvious sometimes when you see it, but you can't, like you said, you can't always rely on that. Some of them will sound like an adult bird.
Well, there you go. All right, we're getting close here. Let's finish up here. If we, I know folks have been questioning whether it's okay to hunt turkeys during their breeding season.
Well, so we talk a lot about that today. So we are hunting the breeding season, and they're kind of unique in that way, in that a lot of other game birds like quail or pheasants or something like that, you're hunting them in a time when they're not breeding. We've always assumed that it's safe because like I said, there's a surplus of gobblers out there. We know that only a very small percentage of the gobblers are actually going to be the ones fathering all the young. But there has been some conversations around the southeast and around the country here of late that maybe states who open their season like Mississippi really, really early in the breeding season, that could cause some issues. Particularly, you as the hunter are not going to know whether you're looking at one of those really important dominant breeding turkeys or just sort of a lesser one. So that's one of the reasons why we've mentioned on the radio a couple of times that we've delayed the season on some of our WMAs to April 1 to sort of shift the harvest a little bit later into the breeding season. And we're going to follow that to see if that actually makes a difference over the next couple of years for those areas. And so there's a couple of other states doing that. Louisiana just did that on a statewide basis last year. So I think Louisiana's season only opens first Saturday in April now. Arkansas did likewise a few years prior, and now Mississippi and Alabama have some WMAs where we're kind of doing this. So we're going to have a real-world case study here in the next couple of years where we've got information to see if that makes a difference.
All right, another minute here or two. Obviously, management of this habitat is important, that we do that, and to manage the wild turkeys. Folks want to learn more about that. Obviously, the Spring Gobbler Hunting Survey to enroll in that's a great place to start, right?
Yep. So we've not pushed the Spring Gobbler Hunting Survey as much on the radio here lately because we've talked a lot about harvest reporting, which is a different thing. But we do actually have a really dedicated subset of turkey hunters in the state that record, essentially keep a journal for us every day of the season, recording what they're seeing and hearing and those sort of things. It's called our Spring Gobbler Hunting Survey. We started that in 1995, and it's totally voluntary. You don't have to do it, but we encourage all hunters of whatever skill and ability level to record that kind of information for us. If you're interested, you can sign up on the website on the turkey program page. So I would say go check that out. It's really neat. I do it. It's kind of a way of, to me, being able to look back and sort of reminisce on past seasons. We'll provide you a summary of your data every year, so you kind of get some specific information to you. At the same time, we get a lot of information statewide